Welcome to the Software People Stories. I'm Shiv.
I'm Chitra.
And I'm Gayatri.
We bring you interesting, untold stories of people
Associated with the creation
Or consumption of software-based solutions.
You'll hear stories of what worked,
and sometimes what didn't,
you will also hear very personal experiences.
and insights that would trigger your thoughts
And inspire you to do even greater things.
Before we jump into today's conversation, a special thanks to PM Power Consulting for encouraging and supporting this show right from the start. With over 1,000 person-years of collective experience, PM Power has helped many organizations, teams, and individuals chart out their own journeys of excellence and make progress. Thank you, PM Power. Now, let's move to today's episode. In this thematic conversation on S-curves, I am in conversation with my colleague and coach at PM Power, Gopalan. In this conversation, Gopal shares some specific S-curves from his life, transitioning from home to the hostel life, from academics to professional life, and the transition to multiple roles through his career. And he also touches upon aspects related to navigating organizational changes and building a startup. Listen on. Hi, Gopal. Welcome back to the Software People Stories.
Yes, Shiv. Thanks. It's always a pleasure.
This time, of course, as we have the theme of a big, probably jump for the podcast itself, since we are reaching the 6-year milestone, we thought we'll get the stories of PM Powerians in their own lives. What are some of the S-curves that they went through? And then take it from there. So you're focusing more of a theme of S-curves. So it could be something personal or something professional. So what are some of the major shifts that happened in your life? It could have been in terms of your responsibilities, the scope of responsibility, or your role, or occasion, or something that you think you had to kind of reinvent yourself.
Before that, first I want to say congratulations. It's an amazing journey, and you and the team have done a brilliant job in terms of maintaining the tempo, having interesting content all the way through, and getting variety of people into the program, which what makes it really interesting. And it's also quite diverse. Even on similar topics, there have been different views that have come, and I think it's a real fund of, and also it's not very heavy. In each episode, because it is presented more from a personal experience, it never felt very heavy, like listening to some serious lecture. But the content is as rich as any serious lecture. So congratulations on that.
Thanks. It's a support and another contributions from people like you, that has made us.
That's the least we can do. Yeah, and it's really very satisfying to know that the amount of effort has gone in has actually resulted in a commensurate kind of output. So it's really nice to know that. About S-curves, yeah, I was actually first going to try and reflect on my personal side, and I realized that I am not so intellectually driven in terms of leading life, but I still did a reflection on what kind of changes actually happened. And I think that there have been some changes when you look at it personally, because I think the way life turns out. So first change for me, really significant change, which made me approach things or look at things very differently, was leaving home and living in a hostel. First time you go out of the protection that is offered by your home and parents, and you are within the family for the most part. And so you grow, you live in one way, and you don't really apply your mind to many things which are needed for taking care of yourself. And so I think that was hard. I mean, leaving, and I think so if you look at the way S curves are defined, I think there was a lot of learning curve, but that really was a key thing that kind of follows you through in your life. I mean, learning that being in the hostel and trying to take care of yourself and trying to be, amongst people who don't necessarily not help, but they are not taking care of you. So that was the first change that I realized that I really had. I don't have a recollection of earlier childhood when I probably first thing when I went to school and stuff like that. That would have also been somewhat of an escape. Though I resisted, I am told very heavily by many people that I just didn't want to go to school. That's what I've been told. But so that was one change. Then again, I think going from academics into a profession was again a different change because I think that the way I saw it, the change was from, in an academics situation, when you're a student, at least the way our education was, we had a structure, we had a syllabus, we knew what we had to go after. And so you actually paced yourself and you did what you had to towards goals like exam and all that. But it was actually very controlled. You are still being directed fairly heavily by the environment. But when you get into a profession, I feel that kind of close guidance is not there, or it is a little more open. So you can actually do very little or just as much as needed to get through the job, or you use that to learn something new and try something new and demonstrate and grow in your capability. So that was something, an approach was very different. Approach to learning, approach to practicing was very different. That's, I think, the next one. There again, going from an individual contributor to becoming somebody responsible for a few people, a team or something like that, that again, I think was a change. And parallelly, even in personal life, you get married, then your outlook to life and the way you think about what to do next is not only about your own comfort, but you need to take a little more things into consideration. So parallelly, personal and professional, the responsibilities as they change, I felt each time it was a new learning, because it is not natural. I think when you become, see, like we always, when we guide people saying, when they go from individual contributor to a team lead or anything, the tendency is that you just roll up your sleeve and start working. And to say, don't do that, guide them to do, and, stay back and watch. And similarly with your children and all that. So that again was not so automatic. I think I needed to tell myself and practice that, saying that, that person may talk longer or shorter than you would take and do it differently from the way you do, but they will get the job done. And you are there only if there is any trouble or any guidance that is needed. So those kind of transitions, and then taking on a business responsibility and what it means, and then trying to take on everything in terms of managing money, managing the business, managing the everything to do with operations. Again, when you suddenly find that you are not, it was much easier for me when I was doing projects because I was focused. I knew what was to be done. I didn't have to think about many other things. So within project, you had multiple things to work on. So like that, I think at every point, it had been a lot of learning. The shift has been pretty much, I've been lucky. I think that opportunities kept popping up and falling on my lap, at those points. So I can't say that I really sought out and took those, and then because I knew I needed to jump the curve or go to the next thing and all that. But when it came, I'm happy I kind of enjoyed that push into that next area or another kind of responsibility, and learning and enjoying that performance was what I feel I did, which favored my life, and that's how I see it. And I do see this pattern. I mean, every point, even now, I feel there are things that I need to learn, because I know that my situation is different. My outlook to life, my physical health, my dependence on me, everything is different. It all has changed. To be aware of that, take cognizance, and then trying to adapt myself to be performing within those things is again a learning. And it's a different thing. I even think that when you've been heavily in operations, giving up operations itself is a big learning. So that way it's continuing. So I think there's a lot of value to what our guys claim as S curves, and the typical nature of learning and changes in life is very, very valid. Though I must say that I never looked at them like that. Once you said that I want to talk to you about it, I started thinking about how it could have happened, and that's why I could say this so easily.
Okay. Yeah, actually, you covered a lot of things which I also wanted to understand or explore a little more. Taking on some things, when you said many times opportunities came and then it just so happened it met your expectations or what you needed, you did that. While some things happen by default, for example, the transition from school to college or college to job, because they have a fixed timeline. Whereas for, let's say, getting married, it is probably a choice that you made. Okay. Now, two aspects there. One is deciding that, okay, now I want to get married, or now I'm ready to be married. And then, of course, whatever follows, and then an actual decision to marry. Or when you said opportunities came your way, sometimes we get frustrated with what you're doing. So there is more of a push factor saying, I want to change. Or you see something saying there's a pull factor that it seems attractive. Okay, let me go explore. Right. So on that kind of a spectrum, what has been your experience of dealing with either when you're pushed into from home to hostel, right? Then you had to accept, adapt, but then when you had a choice.
Yeah, what you say is true. College, I mean, home to hostel was like thrown into the deep end, and I won't say that I necessarily enjoyed the first hostel that I was in, which was very highly disciplined, and I couldn't. They made me wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and it's just completely unusual things for me. But you're right. I mean, when it is not really pushed, and I don't know whether my changes were really always only pull. Very, very rarely I've had a pushed out situation. I've probably been pretty happy doing whatever that I was doing. As an individual contributor, during my early days of my career, I was very happy being that. In fact, I had imagined a life of like that, where I'd be a techie and be an individual contributor and continue. But sometimes you don't know what you're getting into. Like that, I got into some situations where there were some interns in Burroughs, New Zealand. They said, "Can you manage them?" And that was the toughest thing for me. I just didn't know how to do it, and I just used to either completely be away or go and say, "Move." That's not the way to do it. So it was a terrible time, I think I did for those interns there. But you're right. I mean, sometimes what happens is, if I take one big transition, I was very happy in our earlier company in Tata's about whatever that I was doing, and I had a great set of people around. Everything was actually very good, but it is not that everything is hunky dory. There were things that we thought we could try and do even within that organization, but because of a larger corporation and there were constraints in how different you can do the business itself, or how you can run your operation. There were a lot of constraints that were there, which were kind of irritants, and you are kind of saying, why are we artificially constraining ourselves instead of trying these nice things that you could do? For example, being in a good, successful services company, trying to build a product culture. I mean, in those days, when I managed packaged product kind of a culture, was not very easy. You had to do a lot of drama to even get those things going, and it was no, your efficiency was very little. You could spend that time in that thing. So that kind of time, somebody comes and proposes that there is a chance. Can we build something like this? Yeah, I was prepared, and that's what I said. It just came. I actually, though these things were happening in the service, being in a service company, this opportunity showed itself up, and yeah, it was a bit of a push. I would not have left if that opportunity was made available even within Tata at that time, because even if you look at it, 1989, we did this small company offshoot from Tata Industries, trying to put together this Galaxy software. I think you were probably on a different project at that time. And then when it closed, I said, why are we not doing this? And that's when this Bangalore opportunity came, right? So if there was something like that, maybe I would have continued. But so there was a bit of a push there, I agree. But there was this pull of saying, oh, there is something nice we can try and do. So so one thing is, I think I didn't think too much about what if it goes wrong. That has been one. You can call it strength, you can call it a weakness. Kind of, I am not so thorough with having to know everything before I take something. I will say, okay, let's jump in and see what we can do. So that's how it has been. So that I don't know whether I directly answered your question, but that's what comes to my mind when I think about it.
Yeah, you did. But then in context like when you said that the transition from an individual contributor to a team leader, whether it was in the initial stages of your career in New Zealand or later the startup kind of a model in Galaxy, or from being, let's say, a leader, a team lead or a manager to running a business or a business unit, the kind of changes that are needed. You did talk about, I think in the earlier conversation, one of the earlier episodes, about some tips that you got from your manager in New Zealand about how to handle the situation and so on. Let's say and how do you learn the new tricks or other skills you need? For instance, if you've been running projects, that is one thing. But then if you have to do a business, maybe starting with budgeting to making presentations that you may think are not productive or not really technical enough, right? How do you reconcile yourself, or how do you get into the new role comfortably?
Yeah, I think that what happens is, you're right. I mean, it's like, in school days, I didn't want to study anything other than science and maths. I mean, I thought else was a waste of time. So I remember once my father telling me that I used to be terrible in exams when it comes to Tamil exams. So all he said was, you need to clear that also. So he knew I wanted to go in the line of engineering. He knew that that's what I was going to do. So he said, I know you want to do that, but to do that, you still need to clear all these things. So that's when I realized that it's like you may like only fried stuff, but you need to leave the other stuff along with it for filling yourself up. It's like that. You don't get only the things that you like. So yeah, it can be irritating, but what happens is the josh of what you really want to do. For example, when I moved over and started this, what we started as Coromandel, which is now global, the whole excitement about building a repository of application components. That whole idea, trying to come up with. I mean, we thought we were going to revolutionize the world. I mean, that was the belief that was there, and I was so excited about it. I was willing to do anything and everything towards that. That overpowered every other trivial thing that I had to do. So some of it I didn't expect. For example, we started the company, and within 3 months there was no money, and I had to go, and it was, I think I remember it was 6 lakhs or something. We had to take us a loan, and I had to go to a lender in Chennai because that I got some reference, and I had to. It was completely foreign to me, that whole experience of having to prepare that kind of agreement and signing up all that, and I had no clue. I had never thought. I'm not from a traditional business family or anything like that. Never taken loans and stuff like that. So it was completely lots of things. In fact, when you're in a corporate, lots of things you take for granted, and when you come to lots of adjustment had to be done. Not that everything is enjoyable, but I think that it's like you are looking at something else. Towards that, all these things you say, okay, I will get through this. Without this, I can't get there. So let me get through. That's how. In fact, you remember when we first started, and within the first 1.5, 2 years, we got a VC offering of $1 million in those days by a consortium. Particularly because it happened to be a consortium, there were 4 VCs. And we had to make the same presentation to all the 4 VCs and convince each one of them over and over. And it was somewhat, if you really look at it, it's a painful thing to do. And you're educating them on how this is going to approach. And some of them come with no background in software. All that was there. But I think that in the interest of what you really want to do, those things diminish they don't look like such hurdles. But yeah, I think that it's just that if you are excited about doing something, everything else becomes easy to do. But if you are forced to do something, I know it'll be not so much fun to do those things.
So in those kind of situations, how do you find a mentor or a coach, or at least another shoulder to cry on?
You always have them, Shiv. You always have them. They need not be elderly people. They need not be people who have done it before. I think I have always been lucky that way. I've been surrounded by people like you, who at every point it has happened. It just, when you are looking lost, they would come and they would tell you something. They will, even if they don't necessarily know exactly what you're going through. They say, oh, what happened? And then you say, I don't know, there is this thing going on. And then they'll say, oh, don't worry, you can do it. Why don't you try this or something like that? In fact, I used to tell, you remember Visvesh? Visvesh and I used to sit, and then I used to tell him when he wanted to retire, I said, you don't have to do anything. Just come and sit there every day for some time and go away, because so like that, there'll always be people. If you need to be having a network of people, it's very, very critical. I mean, you need to have people around you who always are there, and there is immense knowledge if you are willing to tap from people around you. You don't need to know many things. You just need to know, I can tap and ask, and I will get the answer. So that's how I've been lucky. I mean, again, I've been lucky. I have not ever gotten any guidance from anybody that I've sought. No misguidance. It's always been very, very helpful. And yeah, I think it's a bit of providence. I mean, I've got, I've been lucky in having such people around. But yes, there are daunting times. You don't know how you are going to make the next payroll, or you don't know how this receivable is not happening, and you don't know what to do. So there are lots of such things when you're running a business, or even in projects. You hit a roadblock. Even in the very early, I still remember when we were doing this project for Swissair in that BTOS emulation project.
Yeah.
There was something at the protocol level where the synchronization would not happen because of a fault in the Intel chip.
Mm.
And I said, after all this, we are going to fall apart for this one reason. Then Burroughs came up with a external hardware sync and they solved it. So everything finds a way. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to be, one, you should have luck to survive that tough time. And two, something will happen. You just need to have faith and hang on. Then it will happen.
So in this, you did refer to it, but I want to understand a little deeper in terms of how hard is it to let go? Because with every S-curve, as you get into a new one, something that you probably built or you got emotionally attached, you need to let go, right?
Yeah.
That being.
Yeah, it's something that you get better over time. I think in the earlier days it was harder. Honestly, I think when I became the project manager, actually not so much even initially as a team lead or a tech lead, it was not so hard. But when you actually moved from being even project management time, I was okay. But when I had to go out, become a business manager, and you realize that you can't be as close to technology, as close to that ground level work that gives you a lot of satisfaction, and you can't do that as part of your role. You can always find ways to learn and do something, but you're not doing anything like a productive code. You're not really doing those kind of things. It's very hard. It's just that you go through some withdrawals. I went through. I don't know whether it's hard for everybody. I went through a lot of withdrawal symptoms. I just didn't like. I remember even when I came and joined so as a software engineer, I was actually a hardware guy. I never thought I will lead my life without a soldering iron in my hand. And then I come here and there is nothing about electronics, there is nothing about hardware, and it was all coding. And I said, this is not going to work. And it was very difficult for me to move and let go of all the hardware knowledge that I had actually thrived on when I was before I became a software guy. Similarly, when I left the technology, I mean, going more into management, it was very hard on me. So even recently, when I took my foot off the pedal in terms of not wanting to get involved in operations, it's even tougher. I will tell you why I found it more tough was because you have, even when you decide that you want to leave, move, and let go, people are used to working with you, and so they keep coming to you saying that, what do you do that? And your initial tendency is to jump in, at least mine. So now actually I tell myself, no, you are not giving any answer. You are saying go talk to somebody, and then so that it is tough. I mean, all said and done, I'm very good at it now, or I am much better at it now than I used to be. But that's probably one other thing about it's like you need to remember, unless you let go, you can't reach the other post.
Right.
You need to have a point where you are not clinging on to anything. So you need to be prepared for that. Yeah. But it is actually in real life, I feel it is not as tough as we make it out to be, as long as you don't think too much about it.
Okay. I don't know whether we call it that label, but I'll still ask you, are there any personal techniques or practices that you have evolved that have been working for you in these kind of transitions of letting go, jumping to the next one?
Practices, I think that we all need to create, all these philosophies are out there. Okay, a lot of people know a lot of philosophies.
And ask now, what has worked for you? Yeah.
What has worked for me is that telling myself almost all the days that I am insignificant. I am just here. I have something to do today. Let me do it. That's all. I don't really think about anything beyond that, and so I don't feel stressed on many facts. Almost for a long time now, that has been a helpful philosophy, saying that you are here for doing something, so that is in front of you, do it, okay? But you don't have really any control over anything that is happening. So I keep realizing that. So that helped me in terms of working with people. I don't have any. Another thing is I have always felt that most people are intellectually. It so happened in my life. I think I'm surrounded by most of the time in my life. I've been surrounded by people who have higher intelligence, intellectual abilities than I feel I have. So but it's nothing to do with seniority, junior, nothing like that. Even so, I'm always very comfortable if somebody says, I will get this done, I'll give it to them. I have no worry that they will do it better than I have done. So it's kind of thinking that is there in my head all the time. And combined with the fact that I know I'm just a small dot, that helps you. You will still go through a lot of these things because more due to selfish reasons, because you feel many times I think the insecurity in you that drives you to not let go, but once you get over it's pretty easy. So you need to just sit and reflect in yourself. I don't think there is any other magic in this.
Okay. Yeah. Now, a slightly different view. For someone who, say, doesn't know you well or doesn't know global well, from the outside, looks like, yeah, you've been with this company for more than 2 decades. And yeah, 3 decades almost, yeah, right. I know the time flies when you're having fun, and Global is a fun company. Now, is that to be viewed as a flat line, or are there S-curves within that?
If you take a guy who is operating the lift, no shift, which looks like a very plain job, all that he's doing is just, or you remember that guy who used to organize bicycles outside of Mahalakshmi Chambers in NG Road? It looks like but if you really spend time with them, right? There are a lot of whiskers even in such what appears to be a straightforward role. And when it comes to global, there's been an enormous amount of S-curves actually. If I really, in fact, we actually completed 30 years this year. And so
I
these
lost
guys,
count. I think I thought it's around 25. Okay, missed 5 years somewhere.
yeah, COVID. Now it is 30. It is 94 to 2024. It is 30 years. We had the 30th award ceremony, and these guys were putting together kind of a recap of 3 decades so that everybody will know what all the company has done, more in terms of what has been done in engineering, what has been done in analytics, and so on. And it's a great progression that you can see in that. But if I really look at it, in every way, there are a lot of S-curves. In fact, I had sectioned it in multiple ways. The initial days when we went after the funding and trying to put together our original idea of having a repository of application components, we went through one phase where we were balancing. Those days, our issue was financial resources. So we were lot focused as a company. We were focused on trying to get that money somehow while building the technology, and we were completely in Microsoft platform at that time, if you remember. Then that got completely sabotaged, and we went into this multi-billion-dollar company called Icon, and then we started building a huge product for that corporation. They're establishing ourselves. I'm talking about Global as a corporate entity.
Yeah.
Establishing ourselves in that organization as a serious R&D arm was the next goal, and we were kind of trying to do everything as a corporate to position ourselves like that and sell ourselves within Icon in that model and all that, which again didn't really see end of the day. So we we shifted from there. And when we started, we very clearly said we are going to work only on projects. We will not build any package solutions. We cannot afford to take a high risk and all that we did. But then it so happened we could not help ourselves from getting into Dynastore. And then we almost went bankrupt at one stage. And then Dynastore somehow helped us survive because Quantum and Storage Tech adopted us. And then we came out of it only to land on Invient. And then Invient came through its own set of initial, issues. And then it started coming. So things have become very stable. And then we started building from there. And now we know that AI is coming in a big way, and it is going to be shifting the base. So we have a business model, which is, this analytics is one model where we have retainers and it goes for years. There is no issue, but we know that the way that industry is going to be very different couple of years. So getting yourself prepared. So I don't think if you are running a company, it's like life. I think when you look at it from far, it looks like a straitjacket, one life you have had. But when you go in and you live through it, it's very different. And I think this happens irrespective of what you are. I mean, yeah. And so leave alone a company like Global. I think for the size of the company, we have seen enormous S-curves. We had to make jumps. And even with each group of people that come, with each generation that joins, the whole mindset, how they view things, what is their sense when it comes to engagement as an employee with an organization, what is their sense of a team, official team. So even friendship, the way they look at it is very different from. So everything in every component is going through change almost routinely. So no, it just is not a straight. I think if you go deep, every straight line has a lot of S-curves.
Yeah. In fact, I was explaining to somebody when they were asking me about my kind of reflection, what I kind of felt about different organizations associated. I said, Global is a perennial startup. I mean, when you think that you've done something, there is always something new to do or something different dimension and so on. Yeah.
So again, I think you should be lucky to be challenged and also lucky to be surviving. So I think we have had that working out, when we were down and out and we were even willing to be acquired and all that also. Somehow it was not gelling well, and then we got one sagely advice from Dwayne at that time saying, hang on, things will get better. At that time, it looked very daunting. Now, when I look back, that's what I think is life about. You just hang on, keep at it, you will get through.
So before we close, I have to ask you this question. What is your next S-curve?
I want to, see this thrive without sit back and watch this fly, and at the same time, spend more time enjoying the world and the family now. We're blessed with another little one, enjoying all that. So it's all about enjoyment. Not that it was not enjoyable till now, but this is new kind of enjoyment where I have very few responsibilities, but just sit back and do that. Let people do and just enjoy them doing it. I'm actually more going to be an audience from now on to life, I think.
Yeah. On that wonderful note, thanks, Gopal.
Thank you. Thank you, Shiv.
Everyone always has S-curves and everyone can navigate, and then the hope that you've infused in this, that hang on.
Yes, hang on and keep trying, and letting go is something that you have to practice. Nothing is magical. Everything in life comes only by practice, I believe. So, yeah.
We thank Siddharth for the music and Anita for promoting the Software People stories.
If you like this episode,
Please subscribe on your favorite podcast client.
And spread the word in your network.
if you'd like to share your story,
Contact us at podcasts@pm-powerconsulting.com.